Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the AFC podcast. Today, our special guest is a man named Mark from Long Island. He's got a few films in season 3 of the Triborough Film Festival, so I'd like you all to pay attention to this one because you're not going to want to miss it. How you doing today, Mr. Mark?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. As you know, season 3 of the Triborough Film Festival. I can't believe I'm saying it, but the last 2.5 years has been a real journey. And I didn't think, honestly, I didn't really think about the public response on how well it would be received. Is this your first time coming to the festival?
It is.
Gotcha. Because last year we completed one full year last year where it was just like the end of the cycle, and we got a New York State Assembly citation for the work we were doing. And I'm like, oh, they were paying attention. That's great. And now it's like, oh, now we won, we received a public award. And coming into season 3, seeing that we actually have over, I think over 75 seats already sold but 2 months in advance, and we sold 50 of those within the first month. It's like, all right, I guess all right, keep the momentum going.
Absolutely. You're on the radar now, so you want to keep it going.
Well, how'd you first hear about the Triborough?
Actually, a co-filmmaker of mine mentioned the Triborough to me, and they said that you were looking specifically for New York or New York City area films.
Yeah.
And since my main film, Bound By Bushwick, is not only written by a New Yorker, it was filmed in New York, it's about New York, set in 1979 in Bushwick, where I grew up. So I figured it was worth a shot to submit it. And I did, and I got accepted, thankfully.
Yeah, I liked your movie. I did. And when I saw that you guys were actually from Brooklyn, because I was born in Canarsie, so I was familiar with just sort of not like cliche old Brooklyn stories, but it really hit home for me, Yeah,
my mom's family's from Canarsie, so we made the trek from Bushwick quite a bit down Flatbush, not Flatbush Avenue, I'm sorry, Pennsylvania Avenue, down to Flatlands Avenue, and then over to Canarsie. So I spent a lot of time as a youth in Canarsie. Where'd you go, to Canarsie High School?
No, my dad took us out of Canarsie in the early 90s, right after my sister was born. And I think it was 92nd and Seaview was our neighborhood. And it was like right around the time that there was such a shift in that part of the neighborhood where cars were getting broken into. His car got completely totaled from like a car chase. The robberies were actually increasing. And this was a time where nothing was gated. There were no bars on the windows. It was just like a nice neighborhood. And unfortunately, it just kind of put a bad taste in their mouths. And all right, we're going upstate. And my dad's a firefighter, so he spoke a lot about moving upstate because a lot of other firefighters were familiar with upstate, and it's just go. It's not even an hour away. Take your family, go upstate, get a backyard, live your life.
That's great. Yeah.
But
believe it or not, I have relatives that are still there, that never left, that withstood the all the issues that were going on at the time, and everything changes. Like Bushwick has evolved, Canarsie has evolved, East New York is evolving. All those areas go through cycles. So, yeah.
I always thought it was interesting how it just kind of somehow in some way things just tend to decay a little bit, or things change like that,
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I've seen Bushwick up, down. And, now at this point, it's one of the most popular neighborhoods in the world. So I never thought I would have seen that day growing up there in the 70s.
Well, I heard it was barely 10 years ago where they felt the trend. Bushwick was going to be one of the next Astorias because it was right on the right under the elevated train in that area.
That's right.
And while I was going to church, some people were looking to invest in properties, and I just overhear conversations because I was an usher, and you get to know everybody. And they're saying that Bushwick is the next spot, and that was in 2000, I think 17 when I heard that. So by now, I assume it actually kind of turned around, and it's like, all right, we're cut the crap. Let's get back to basics here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the trend started earlier than that. I think the trend, it started with Williamsburg, and then when Williamsburg got overbuilt and overpriced, then the trend just moved towards Bushwick. And you have the L train that runs from Manhattan through Williamsburg into Bushwick to East New York. In fact, that's the train I took. I went to high school at Xavier in Manhattan, where much of the movie was filmed. And that was the train I would take to school every day. And it was, I mean, from the DeKalb Avenue stop to Union Square, it was 20 minutes. So door to door was about a half hour. It was great. I could roll out of bed at 7:45, be on the train by 8, and be in school by 8:30, which is what I usually did.
Yeah. Did when you were actually like now talking about Bound by Bushwick, well, why don't we start at the very beginning? Let's start with the title. What made you pick the title?
Well, actually, the original title was A Bushwick Story. And my good friend, Mike Borgia, who is actually provided a lot of the music, and he also created the poster for the movie, thought the title was a little sort of bland. So I said, okay, Mike, and he's amazingly creative, not just with music, but with art and with everything. So I said, give me a few options. And I forget what the other two were, but Bound by Bushwick really resonated with me because of the story, because it's a young man, a character who's based on myself. All of the characters are either composites or they're actually based on one real character. And he was tied to Bushwick. You know, he was trying to break away, but he really, really, really had a strong bond with Bushwick. So thus, Bound by Bushwick.
Yeah, you didn't want to go off a Bronx Tale, and it's just like
Well, I thought about that, and Bushwick Story sounded a little too much like a Bronx Tale, and some other stories, some other titles rather. So yeah, I think Bound by Bushwick is a unique title.
I agree. I thought it was actually really catchy, and it's like when you actually watch the film, it's like I totally get it. You know, when you're born in New York City, you like your neighborhood is your family in
That's
America.
right.
You know, it's very unique because I think all New Yorkers agree that wherever, that neighborhood you are born in and from, you're part of the block. And, there's a family element there.
There's a very, very, very strong bond. And it's funny you say block. I mean, originally, when I was born, we lived over by Highland Park, which is borderline East New York. And when I was about 9 or 10, we moved to Bushwick. And we moved to DeKalb Avenue between Wilson and Central Avenue. And that block was almost entirely 6-family tenements. The amount of people that lived on that block, the amount of kids, I mean, we had a baseball team just for that block. And we almost had like a minor league team for that block. That's how many kids play baseball just on that block. And we would play against the next block over, which was Hart Street, and the next block over, which was Saddam Street. And they all had their own baseball teams because every block just had tons of kids, and we fought together. And it was mostly Sicilian American and Puerto Rican, a little bit of Dominican, some black families, but mostly Sicilian American and Puerto Rican. And we didn't always get along, but then again, the Sicilians didn't even always get along amongst themselves.
No,
but we always, we always got through it, and it seemed a common bond growing up with sports. And for the guys, it was girls. And so, and for the girls, it was guys. So we all really managed to get along. It was not that kind of West Side Story,
I thank you for saying that because I don't like some. I thought it was actually like speaking of West Side Story, I thought it was a great story, but I mean, that's just not really how life in New York City actually is. It's exaggerated, and of course, there's a feud rooted in culture, and I can't believe, like, even Bushwick, I didn't know, like, it was such a very strong Italian and Puerto Rican demographic in that neighborhood. That must have been
at that time. Prior to that, I mean, historically, it was Dutch, then it was German. The Germans came here. They built all the breweries in Bushwick.
Yeah, okay.
Fresh water supply from upstate New York.
Right.
And then they built all the housing stock in Ridgewood, in Bushwick, in Ridgewood, in Glendale, in Maspeth, all the surrounding areas, and they built some tremendous housing stock. And then as the Germans left, the Italians came in. After Prohibition, when a lot of the breweries closed down, the Germans left. And then the Italians came in. And then eventually the Italians, mostly Sicilian Americans, started to move out and the Puerto Ricans came in. So it was an evolution of the neighborhood.
The cycle.
And it's interesting when I hear people talk today who were not from Bushwick, talking about, not from Bushwick originally, talking about their dislike for the newcomers to Bushwick. And I'm thinking, well, you were a newcomer once. You know, Sicilian Americans were newcomers once. No one owns a neighborhood, you know?
No.
Certainly, you know, traditions and cultures that are rooted in neighborhoods, but a neighborhood doesn't belong to any one group.
No. Actually, I think it's the neighborhood that shapes you, not the other way around.
Well, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. For better or worse or both.
Yeah. And man, I gotta say, because Bound by Bushwick, you really I really did enjoy this film because it really was the start, I think, of something much bigger. And I really don't think as is it's 100% complete. I think you got a 2-hour feature film just like waiting to come out, because once you introduce all these different characters and their backstory and everything, there was so much more for character development and room to actually just not grow, but just expand on that, you know, and really fill in the gaps.
You're absolutely right. And I didn't think of this right off the bat as sort of a proof of concept, but as I was writing it and I was trying to get it into the 15 to 20-minute time frame that most film festivals want. And by the way, I appreciate you accepting our film at 33 minutes, because many film festivals won't. It's just too long. And I had tried very hard to cut it down, but I couldn't tell my story in 15 or 20 minutes. It would not have been the same. Having said that, as you said, there's a lot more of a story to tell. I think there needs to be more of a backstory between the main characters, how they came to know each other, the evolution of the characters together. I wasn't able to say that in 33 minutes, but in 90 minutes or 120 minutes, I can. So that is something that I'm working on right now. But thank you for saying that. I appreciate you looking at it and thinking that way, because that's the way I'm thinking.
For me, like, I know we just met, but this is something I'm incredibly passionate about. My background mostly started with just starting out with a little bit of theater, and then it snowballed into acting and then independent film, and going to college for 4 years for this. And it just, like, you know, it took me, like, I had totally different plans for my life, but somehow in some way, this just kind of pulled me in, and it's like, all right, what do I do? And it's like, honestly, when I look at all these like really genius people who really come up with a really good idea for a movie, like I'm really compelled to help, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah, I mean, the film festival alone is helpful.
Yeah.
It's interesting with this story. It's obviously not a completely unique story. It's an old story told a different way, right? It's coming of age. I always think of it in similarities with Saturday Night Fever, which is one of my favorite films of all time. It's top 5, especially since I grew up at that time in that place while that movie was being made. I mean, Saturday Night Fever was made in real time. It wasn't a retrospective movie.
Right in that neighborhood where you grew up?
Well, more Bay Ridge, which is on the other side of Brooklyn. You know, we were in Bushwick, actually closer to Canarsie, but very similar demographic. And we actually went over, my friends and I went over to 2001, the disco where it was filmed right after the movie came out. And of course, we walked in there thinking we owned the club, and the guys from the neighborhood felt like they owned the club, and a huge brawl broke out, and a bunch of my friends got arrested because, of course, the cops are going to side with the locals. So it was pretty funny. But again, I lost my train of thought. I went off on a tangent about that. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, I get it, bro. Because I think with every generation, like every single person, like they're trying to discover who they are. They're trying to live out a purpose in their life. And in hindsight, usually with a feature film, we could kind of like show what other people have gone through and see where you kind of fall into that film in a sense. But even though it's the same story, different version, we all have the same story, but a different version. We're trying to find out what we're here for. We have our own hero's journey that we live. There's mentors along the way. There's obstacles to overcome. There's sometimes even an enemy to prevent you from doing it, and that's where your battle is and your task to achieve that thing you are meant to do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, there were a lot of obstacles to overcome. So again, the main character, Maddie, was based on me, right? So
All right.
growing up in Bushwick, most of my friends went to and dropped out of Grover Cleveland High School, and here I was trying to get through, Xavier, which is a pretty difficult private school in the city, and then on to St. John's, and trying to figure out where I belonged. And the lure of the neighborhood was always very, very tough. It was fun. I mean, I had a great time with my friends playing ball and going out and all of that stuff. But ultimately, I needed to make a decision. And when I graduated from college and was floundering, didn't know what to do, and wound up going to work in real estate in Manhattan because of my dad. I think that was a pivotal turning point for me in terms of figuring out where I wanted to go with my life. Prior to that, I was kind of going along, but just unsure of where I was going to end up. So ultimately, I had a career in real estate and construction. I'm still in real estate, but about 6 years ago, when I closed my construction company and wanted to figure out what to do, I figured, okay, what am I going to do? I'm not one to retire. I'm not one to sit home. I'm going to try a little bit of acting. So I actually, on a fluke, got called for a background role in The Irishman. And a week later, I'm sitting at the Marcy Avenue Armory in Williamsburg in a very small, on a very small set, watching Martin Scorsese direct Bobby Cannavale, Ray Romano, Joe Pesci, and Robert De Niro in a booth. And I'm sitting 10 feet away from them, and I get to watch this for 3 days. And I'm not starstruck, but this was pretty amazing because you can't pay for an education like that. And from there, I started taking classes and I started auditioning, started getting parts, some off-Broadway stuff, some commercials, a lot of short films. And all along, I wanted to make this movie. So I learned from being on sets and watching Martin Scorsese. I mean, you can't find a better role model, right? And so when it came time, when I finally got to the point where I was ready to make this movie, I turned to my friend, Jack Foley, who also has a couple of films in your festival, Brownstone Films. I said, Jack, you direct it and I'll make it. And he said, no, you direct it and I'll be your AD. And so that's how I wound up directing it, because I had no experience at all directing it. So that was an unexpected, real bonus. I loved directing.
You do? Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so on that point, now, like when you go back to Maddie, and was that more your thing, playing baseball, and you really wanted to go to college, and then did you play your own mentor in a sense, or did you play the priest?
I did.
Yeah, okay.
I played Father Brennan, who was based on my headmaster at Xavier at the time, Father Jim Keenan, who was, and I don't throw this word around loosely, was a great man. And Father Keenan actually passed away 2 weeks before we filmed at Xavier. So 2 weeks before we filmed those scenes at Xavier, I was at the church next door at Father Keenan's funeral mass. And he had said he was still actively working. He was, he was a giant in the Jesuit community in the Northeast. He christened the baby, and at the party afterwards, he had a massive heart attack and died. And I can't think of a better way that he would have wanted to go out. But a huge loss, and the timing of it was obviously profound, because again, I was at his funeral mass, and then 2 weeks later, I was sitting in the headmaster's office at Xavier, playing a character that was based on Father Keenan. So,
Wow, I'm so sorry for your loss, man.
yeah, I mean, it is a huge loss to the entire community. And I mean,
Of course.
he was, I think about it. So I started at Xavier in 72. He was not the headmaster when I started. I think he became the headmaster the year after. He was like what could he have been? His late 20s at that time. And here he is heading up this, the boys' school in Manhattan. So he was really amazing. He really was.
Was it So since you had a little bit of acting experience before you decided to start writing, what was it like playing the role of your mentor?
It was it was it was it was interesting. I mean, I wasn't trying to act like him. It wasn't that. I brought kind of my own perspective to the role, but it was but I pulled from my experiences with him. So when Maddie comes, I don't want to give away too much, but when Maddie comes into my office and I first reprimand him, and then I kind of become, more of a father figure and kind of talk to him about the potential he's wasting. I pulled from my experience with Father Keenan calling me into his office, and he called. I'll never forget this. I'll tell this little story. Senior year, I was in the cafeteria and I was coasting towards graduation. I mean, I basically coasted 3 of my 4 years there. My freshman year, I worked really hard. And after that, I just coasted. And he called me into his office and he said to me, I'm giving you this warning right now. If you do not straighten up, you are not graduating with your class. And I walked out of his office absolutely petrified. And my biggest concern was not that I wouldn't straighten up, because I knew I could straighten up. It was that next call was going to be to my parents. He never did call my parents. And I spent the next months working really hard. And I remember him coming into the cafeteria and saying, I want to see you in my office. And I go, that's it. He's throwing me out. And he said to me, I have never seen a student make the turnaround that you made in the last 2 months. Keep up the good work. And that's who he was. He was very tough, but he was also very fair, and he was always willing to, pat some, he'd be firm when he needed to be, tough when he needed to be, but also give a good pat on the back when someone deserved it. So I tried to bring that same approach to my character. In the, I mean, it was a limited role, but it was a significant role.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I thought when I watched it, like this is the guy that was actually like kind of like a cornerstone to the story, because this is the guy that influences the direction of this young man's life, you know?
And literally, I mean, thousands of other young men's lives in his time at Xavier and at St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City and at Canisius High School upstate. I mean, I was one of thousands whose lives he impacted in a very profound and positive way. So there was a lot to pull from in my role.
Kind of makes me think like if even though this film I would not call it a proof of concept, because like it's evident that you can do this, and you did a little bit more than prove a concept. You showed a really good story in a very brief manner, and for a short film, I thought it was great. What I kind of take from this is that uh, I think that this is a 120-minute, about 2 hour movie that you could tell in like maybe two acts, where it's like similar to Old Testament 50-50 and then New Testament 50-50, where it's sort of like the first generation and the second generation, but it's all surrounded in this one neighborhood. But the cornerstone of it is actually surrounded by the priest, you know? And
Yes.
like a pivotal spot. And then you have all these miscellaneous characters who have influence not just by the neighborhood, but the mentorship of this one priest. And where it goes in the end, like I hate to see like not to say like the story is about how these people came together at a funeral at the end, where it was actually surrounded about the priest that was bound by Bushwick, but definitely like a period piece where it is 1970s, and that time frame in your life that brings everybody back to this moment, you know?
Did you see the movie Sleepers? Not the Woody Allen one, the other one.
No, you want that's Rob De Niro and Brad Pitt, and
You have to
yeah,
see that movie because it was certainly, I mean, again, one of my favorite movies of all time. Set in Hell's Kitchen in the late
yep.
60s.
That's, Kevin Bacon was in it.
Kevin Bacon was in it. Tremendous cast. Jason Patrick. I could go on and on. But a lot of similarities to Hell's Kitchen at that time and Bushwick at that time. The mixed ethnicity, the mob, the Catholic priest. But So De Niro's role in that movie is very similar to what you're saying, in that, he was the cornerstone of that neighborhood. Now, in the case of Xavier's not in Bushwick, it's in Manhattan. So it's a little bit different. That doesn't mean that a feature-length film couldn't be set with the priest in Bushwick at, say, St. Barbara's Parish, which is where my mother was married and my siblings and I were all baptized. Could be something like that. But I like the concept. I like your line of thinking. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. It's honestly, it's what I'm not going to make it about me at all. But when I watch a film,
okay, you make it a little about you.
no. It's like honestly because like when I like to get involved with people and just kind of collaborate and come up with like try this, see if it works, listen to this, see if it works. If it doesn't work, then we figure it out. But it's just like a period piece is by far one of the hardest and most expensive things, unfortunately, at this point to actually pull off. But it might be critical, just not 100% of the film. It's just like the origin story, the backstory. And I haven't watched Sleepers in a long time, but man, when I watched that, I think I was a teenager, and that just left a really big impression on me, and it stuck.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and like all because of a hot dog prank.
That's right.
Can you believe that?
Yeah,
and then just like that, you're like,
that's right. That's how quickly someone's life can go off the rails. A harmless hot dog prank, and their lives went off the rails because of that. Unbelievable.
And it's a tragedy, And it's like, and then on the flip side, like if this is a guy who actually was able to intercept and give the right words at the right time, where it actually set the tone for Four Boys or whatever, to actually be like, we already know the tragedy, and it's out there, and it's very common of when you don't listen, even when people like, this is what happens if you don't listen. But if you do listen, here's what can happen. And Bound by Bushwick, that's kind of like maybe what you could do to just kind of expand on the realm of possibility, like where your life can go. You're going to have challenges along the way, but you have to know how to listen and discern.
Right. But the reality of it is, unfortunately, even the best of kids will sometimes make very poor choices, don't listen to either their parents or their teachers or their mentors, right? And sometimes it's something, so whether it's, don't drink and drive, and
that's it.
And he'll have maybe one or two drinks, and then he'll lose discretion, and then have maybe a few more, and then get behind the wheel of a car. And we've all heard about or experienced or know of people that were involved in tragedies like that. So it's just it's such a shame that someone's life can turn on a dime like that. In the case of Maddie and me, I've certainly made a lot of mistakes, and I count my blessings. So then when people criticize teenagers for things they do, I'll say to myself, they're ever for the grace of God, So
I like that, like God, he sees everything, but there's also a highlight reel of everything that you did right.
Right.
And I think that's where his grace really comes into play, because I know you're going to make mistakes, but I need you to trust me.
Right. Unfortunately, you're not necessarily thinking that when you're out and having a good time and all of that.
Of course not. No, but that's honestly same story, different version. That's our species, unfortunately, where yeah, I think you only get wise from the experiences you have.
Well, yep. You gain a lot of knowledge from your mistakes. That old saying, "What doesn't kill you will make you stronger."
Yeah, I guess. That's definitely true. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But as long as it doesn't harden your heart.
Well, this is true. Yeah.
You could get tough, but you could become, if you get, you could get brittle in time, and they say time heals all wounds. I agree and disagree, because time will also fester a wound equally to healing it. You got to be the one that addresses it.
Absolutely. I mean, you can let things eat away at you forever and ever, and you can harbor grudges, and you can do all of that. And I have family members that I talk about all the time, but it's not healthy. And it's the same thing I tell my children, put things in their place. You've gotten burnt by somebody. I'm not saying you should forget it, but you got to put it in its place so that you can move forward, because you're not moving forward to the best of your ability if you're dwelling on all this stuff, if you're carrying all this baggage with you from the past, whether it's baggage of your mistakes or baggage from someone that was in your life, a romantic interest or whatever. So I agree 100%.
You said, didn't you mention that you had a second movie in the festival too?
So The Rooftop, I co-produced. That's in the same block of films. That was Dave Mussoff's concept, Galaxy 5 Filmworks. And Dave approached me about playing the lead in, which I do have the lead in it.
Okay, now I'm connecting the dots, and it's like, okay. I honestly, I put all these movies together because I saw some names, and it was really also like the vibe each one of these movies give, like a genre or a theme, where they're all like they're not identical, but they all have some sort of like element to connect all of them together for that like whole experience in the festival, you know?
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, certainly. So the character I play in The Rooftop, character by the name of Monty, which was my high school nickname,
Okay.
is a mysterious character, goes up to the roof of a building to take care of some business, and he encounters a beautiful woman who's in the process of trying to commit suicide. So, like I said, it was Dave Mulsoff's script. I worked with him a little bit on it. Just to flush out some things, and then we filmed it in Bushwick also. We filmed it on the roof of my brother's building, and that was a lot of fun. And the actress that I played opposite was just phenomenal. For most of the film, it was just the two of us on the roof. So
That must have been fun.
that was a lot of fun. It was
Yeah, that looked like a fun story.
like everything else, there are challenges. We didn't realize until we got up there how the airplanes fly so low, right over the building going into LaGuardia Airport. It was a beautiful backdrop of Manhattan, right? But we had to keep stopping while the airplanes flew over. Just not something you take into account when you're planning this out. But it was a fun couple of days shoot. It was a lot of fun.
How far would you say is Howard Beach from there?
Uh, Depending on traffic, 20 minutes, a half hour.
Because I remember when we all started to leave Canarsie, I think my grandmother during like just like the later part of her life, she moved, I think, to I know we all moved out of Canarsie, like we were just moving on, and I'm almost certain she lived in Howard Beach, and I just remember like the planes. Anytime we went over there, like right, just like it was literally underneath the shadow of a plane because of how low they got the entire day.
That's
You
right.
know? It was
JFK's right there.
right.
In fact, one of the scenes in Bound by Bushwick, when Maddie and his friend go to return the stolen stuff to the parents, I don't want to give away too much, but when they go to return the stolen stuff, we actually filmed that at Vetro's. Frank Russo, who owns Russo's on the Bay Catering Hall in Vetro's, let us use his parking lot, the Vetro's parking lot in Howard Beach, to film that scene. So that was filmed right on Cross Bay Boulevard in the parking lot of Vetro's Park, the Vetro's. But yeah, also the same issue there, where we have the planes flying over because JFK is right on the other side of the bay there. So
Right.
Embark on your unique financial journey with Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union. Your aspirations, your milestones. We're committed to guiding you every step of the way. Whether you're saving for a dream home, planning for retirement, or seeking to consolidate debt, trust MHV to provide personalized solutions tailored to your needs. Our comprehensive range of products and services, coupled with expert financial advice, empowers you to make informed decisions and achieve your goals. Visit us online at mhvfcu.com to discover the tools and resources available to help you navigate your financial landscape with confidence and clarity. Your journey starts here.
Man, oh man, like same story, different versions. I think everybody in New York, we all kind of live the same life, just differently, you know?
yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
No, I think that's what I meant by earlier is that, it's really the neighborhood that, develops you into who you are, and sometimes vice versa, especially when you move out of the neighborhood and then you go to another one, you're going to have a little bit of an influence in there once you get there, but it's going to be like you're adapting to that neighborhood as well. But there's a little bit of a growth and a shift, you know?
Yeah, well, how old were you when you moved upstate?
I think I was 6, give or
Okay.
take.
So you were a few years younger than me when we moved to Bushwick, which was Bushwick was a bit of a cultural shock for me. Even though both my parents were from Bushwick and my grandparents lived in Bushwick and we would go visit them, living there was different than visiting there because then you were immersed in it when you lived there. When you visited, you were seeing your grandparents. So it was definitely a bit of culture shock for me when I first got there. But I quickly assimilated for you being younger, I'm sure it wasn't as much of an adjustment. Do you remember that period? Do you remember it being
All of it.
really?
I do. I remember all of it. I got into my first fight when I was 5 years old. Two kids down the block were trying to take my baby brother's Big Bird, Big Wheel while we were playing outside.
Yeah.
It was actually like my first legitimate fight. I remember I won because I found a clothing hanger and I started whacking him with it to get him away. It was a wire hanger, and that gave me the competitive edge. And they were the big kids. They were at least 7.
This was upstate or this was in Canarsie?
This was in Canarsie before.
Oh, okay.
I was 5. I already learned how to 4 or 5 years old. I learned that summer how to ride a 2-wheeler. My dad showed me how to do it, and I figured it out. My cousin who lived, they were standing on the stoop. My mom, my brother, and they're all going like this because I did it without help. And my dad's just like standing in the middle while I just do circles around him, and I'm figuring it out, and I got it. My best friend Louie and Andrew, they were all on the other side of the road. I wasn't allowed to cross the street, and then way down on the opposite end of the avenue, that's where the other one lived. And I went down there by myself because I don't remember them saying I wasn't allowed to walk down the street by myself, but that's a good quarter of a mile walk alone for a kid, but I did it. And then once I learned how to ride my bike, I rode my bike down the street. I wasn't allowed to cross the street. I had to wait for an adult, but I remember all of it. And coming upstate, it was a big adjustment. I remember my first day of school. That was different. I wasn't used to riding on a bus. I did not like riding on a bus. I became car sick once I started riding on buses because I was just so anxious that I couldn't just ride my bike or just walk. And that actually stuck with me my entire life. That shift, I still battle that. That's where it all began, was that shift, riding on buses.
Wow. Do you remember being excited about moving, or
I remember the road up. I remember the ride upstate. And we took 87 north up through Woodbury. And I remember coming across when we got off the highway. And I remember it so well because around that same time frame when we took those roads, it just stuck to memory because there was a lumberyard fire at some point. I don't know if it was that first day that we moved upstate or around that same time, but it was on that same highway to go from Harriman, where the Woodbury Commons are, over all the way to Goshen, New York.
Yep.
And there in Chester, they used to have this lumber yard, and I just remember it so vividly on that same exact highway. I don't think it was the same day, but I know it was around that same time, where the entire lumber yard was burning down, and the smoke was just taking up the entire area. It was taking up the highway, and you could see the flames. And I would talk to my dad. I remember remembering it and committing it to memory because I asked my dad, "Should you get out and fight the fire?" Because he's FDNY, and little things like that. But no, I do. I remember everything. And then I guess 20 years later, going to college in Manhattan for the first time when I got accepted into acting school, it was all full circle where it's the kid is now coming back. He's becoming his own, moved to Astoria, started a business, and I never had plans or intended on anything, but it's just kind of happening.
Yeah, I got to tell you, my whole life has just kind of happened.
Yeah, it just kind of happened.
Funny, it just kind of happened. I'm like, all right, it'll work out. I'll figure it out. It was into real, and even when I was a kid, I'd always get jobs, it's all right, I'm out of a job, I'll move into something while I was going to school. While I was working, while I was going to school. And it always sort of worked out. I don't know, it's probably not what I would tell my kids to do, but if it works out, it works out. So that's great. What town, you weren't in Monroe, were you?
No, no, no. Like that's Monroe Woodbury. I grew up in Goshen.
Because isn't Goshen and Monroe, aren't they right next to each other?
Yeah, like not even like 10 miles apart. There's like it's like all the townships is like a spider web and it's like all over the place. And then there's roads on your hand that connects all those towns. So 17, now known as Future 86 or currently 86, is off of 84, which would take you north and south. 86 now takes you to where Legoland is built today.
Okay. Yeah, I have some friends in Monroe. I actually had an uncle in Monroe. He passed away a number of years ago, but I have some friends that are still up in Monroe. So I know that neck of the woods a little bit.
Oh, and I know like when my dad was growing up, all of his family grew up like he had cousins of cousins and then Cappadora cousins where they grew up in like the Pine Bush area. And he remembers going through it was called Sloatsburg and Tuxedo Park because I think 80 or 90 the Major Deegan wasn't created yet, and I can't even remember my own highway in this conversation. Oh, geez. So it was the Big Apple Red Stop. Used to be the big stop
I
during.
remember it.
You remember you've ever
The Red Apple Rest.
yeah, the Red Apple Rest. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember because my grandparents had a country house in a town called Clintondale. It's kind of midway between New Paltz and Newburgh. So we would go up, and it was the Red Apple Rest was on the side of the thruway, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy was offered a fortune to sell it, but he never sold it. But I guess once the highway was built, it had less traffic coming through for people to pull over and take a break. So it just kind of just unfortunately just kind of decayed.
Okay.
That was a real shame, but he would tell stories from when he was but from the time he was like 5 to 15 to 20 years old, they would stop there and
Yeah.
take a break because they were that was like he said it was like to him it was like the halfway point from Brooklyn to the other side of Orange County in the Pine Bush area. And it was
Okay.
nothing, it was mostly back roads back then growing up.
Okay.
It wasn't until like the 80s where the highways were really developed into what they are today.
Goshen is Orange County, right?
Yeah, it's actually right. It's adjacent, I guess, to Middletown, the dead center of Orange County, I guess you could say.
Okay. Yeah,
And
because my grandparents' house was Ulster County. So Ulster, I guess, is the next county north.
yeah, there's like even my like demographic of my brain just trying to put all these pieces together because like I never knew where the county lines actually were. I just knew towns. And
Okay.
I never really asked the county question, you know? Like if I ever go to Brooklyn, I just call it the whole thing. And then I don't realize what neighborhood I'm actually in unless I just try to like ask or figure it out, you know?
Okay.
But
Okay.
here upstate, it's kind of reverse. I know what town I'm in, the neighborhood, but I don't know the county in and
Okay.
so it's like, damn it, more things I got to work on myself.
Cool.
And did you mention that Dave, he's got multiple films, and you mentioned I think
Jack Foley. Jack
Foley?
has, I got to remember,
I
Jack
think he has
has,
three. If
I
it's
think
the right,
Jack has Heart of Gold.
Flynn, and I think Lizzie.
Lizzie.
Yeah,
Right? And Flynn is the prequel to Lizzie. Dave
Flynn
has,
is the prequel to Lizzie.
I think so.
Oh man, I hope I got that organized right. I
I
didn't.
think so.
Ah, well, I'll figure it out. I want to try to get. When you do this, you want to try to get it right and make it more of like a,
It'll be great no matter what it is. Dave
yeah.
has Plumber Seal, I think.
Oh, he's the one who did Plumber Seal.
Dave did Plumber Seal, which I think I just saw you put something on social media about it. It's great how you've been posting things about the movies.
I really try to stay on top of it
You've
because
been
like
great, man. You've been fabulous with communication. You've been fabulous with promoting it. Really, you've been wonderful.
thank you so much for saying that because
Yeah.
like I always try to I sometimes think like I'm falling behind, but then I realize I'm not falling behind at all. I'm way ahead of the game, but I'm being so patient with myself for this process because we just had another 7 or 8 films come in the last few weeks. And we were able to fill in a good like 3 hours that I needed, but I needed all these little minutes to fill in the second day of screenings, and I didn't know where to put anything. And I'm like, great. What do I do? So when I waited, now that I see all the numbers and the style of the movie and how they kind of synchronize together for day two, that's when I was able to like, okay, put it all together. Now I have 2 full days where I could start posting everybody's posters, their pictures, and now I have enough of pieces to the puzzle to actually do it all. So thank you for saying that. But man, oh man, like I wanted to make sure I never fallen behind because even 2 months to promote all this stuff, I just hope it's enough time. But I think it is.
I got to tell you, and I don't want to bash any other film festival. I'm certainly not going to mention any by names, but what you're doing 2 months in advance, some of the other film festivals are doing less than 2 weeks in advance. It's I mean, I have to email some of the film festivals and go, can you please let me know what time slot my film is in so I can promote it to my friends and family?
Right.
I mean, it's just crazy. And I know, and I don't mean to criticize anybody because I know how difficult it is to do what you do. But
Yeah.
one of the main things you need to do if you want to sell tickets, which is important, is you've gotta promote it. You've got to have a schedule. That's imperative, and you did that early on, and that was really great. Dave and I were talking yesterday about it. We were both talking exactly about this, about how much we appreciate your film festival and how communicative you've been, and how on the money you've been. So yeah.
Thank you. Well, are you familiar with how like any of this ever began, like day one?
Your festival?
Well, between the festival, between the Astoria Filmmakers Club, the whole
No,
like,
no idea.
all right, I'll give you the crash course. So, like back in 2019, before the pandemic, we were just meeting up, shaking hands, and just like as an actor, meeting other filmmakers and trying to maybe get a gig and show my reel, things like that. And then over 100 people came within 5 months, and we would meet up every Wednesday, have just drink, eat, shake hands, and talk. So it evolved into a company, which became a nonprofit. And ever since then, I've been treating it sort of like a church for filmmakers, like a ministry in a sense, where it's like community first, creativity, and finding joy in doing it. So there's this company called Come and See that I'm really inspired by, who does all the fundraising for this TV show called The Chosen by Dallas Jenkins out in, I think they film in Texas and Utah. But it's the #1 streaming show in the world right now that nobody really understands how significantly powerful this became. And it's literally the story about Jesus Christ and the disciples, and a guy from Queens is the lead. He was born in Hell's Kitchen, and he grew up in Queens. I think he said Jamaica or in the flap.
What's his name? Do you know?
Yeah, Jonathan Rumi is the lead actor.
Jonathan Rumi.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look this up.
No, this is a great story, and it really inspired me to create the Astoria Filmmakers Club because everything that they did is duplicatable and anybody could do. I just didn't know why I was doing it or how to do it, but I kind of just believed that New York needs something like this. So what the Astoria Filmmakers Club actually is, it's kind of like a chamber of commerce specific for filmmakers, where we watch everybody's work, legitimate. We know that these guys could do, we know what these people could do. And objectively, we want to have people collaborate for their next film, whether it's a year from now or whenever. But what I've noticed is that when it comes to soliciting donations, everybody's doing it on their own. So what I did was I just consolidated everything. And whenever somebody's actually fundraising for their film within the community, email blast. And so with the AFC, because it's a 501c3, we're actually giving tax credits for people supporting this. And my final destination is that once we have all these movies completed, I would have a streaming platform like AFC TV Plus, for example, where now the answer is, where do we watch everybody's movie if and when these are all done? So I started the Triborough Film Festival to start getting an idea of how much material actually exists and who we want to support. And when I say we, it's really support each other,
Right.
because it's all New York, and
Right.
anybody could be the president of me. Like anybody could do this job. It's not that hard. You just got to really, step up and do the gig get on the board of directors. It's not that hard. You're literally joining a nonprofit committee, and let's do it. It's all and that's basically, honestly, what it is. That's basically it.
I think it's great, and I love the fact that you really focus on New York City and New York City area films and filmmakers. I mean, I think it's absolutely wonderful because a lot of the other film festivals only give a small amount of acceptances to New York City films. So, and there's so much talent in New York City and the surrounding areas, in Jersey, in Long Island, in Westchester. It's unbelievable. And you see that firsthand because you look at all the submissions. So, you know.
And they're good. Like these are good. I mean, there's no reason that most of these that I've seen, like above 90%. Like the quality is there, the story is definitely there. Great job on some, like the cinematography on some of this stuff is insatiable. And I'm using big words. Like, honest to God, these people know what they're doing, but nobody knows who they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or in a very tiny margin, people know. It's like, yeah, I'm good. But that's what I mean, though. You got like these are all-star players.
Yeah.
And that's why I created the Battle of the Boroughs to see, okay, how do we know that? Let's see who's who. And just see how we could get better. Because the only way you're ever going to get better is with experience, and you need to be on a movie set to actually get that experience. So if I could get the donations and then we actually get the permits and all that great stuff to actually greenlight some projects, then like literally this could actually just fund and finance like 100 filmmakers a year or whatever it is. There's no stopping that potential.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's a wonderful concept, and I think it's wonderful what you're doing. Really.
Thank you.
It's great. It's really great. I'm so excited about the festival. I'll be coming to the pre-festival party. I know you're having a holiday party. I think I have another film festival that night or that day.
Yeah, I got one upstate, and then we wanted to try to do one in around Christmas time in the neighborhood. But for me to I can't be at two places at once, and I got so many like bookings, and it all works itself out. I'm gonna try to make it to the launch party on the 24th. I know a Friday, that's usually when I have to work. I can't not work most Fridays unless it's like my cousin's wedding. My boss gave me a hard time about going to my cousin's wedding on a Friday. I'm like, bro, we're not having this conversation. And it was a heated argument. Like it was like, what, bro? You suck. Leave me alone. He's not gonna listen to this podcast, so I don't care. And it's like, just silly shit like that, where it's like, I don't want the drama, I don't want the stress, but I know even for like the rap party for the Astor Awards ceremony, of course I'm going to be there. I meet everybody. I tell everybody everything I told you about the podcast, about the club, what it actually is, and we just we go from there. It's here. It's
the rap party again.
Well, it's called the Astor Award ceremony. That's the award ceremony for the film festival and the circuit. So I'm confident we got February 8th, Saturday, February 8th. And it's either gonna be at the Cayenne Federation building in Astoria, or we're gonna do it at the Culture Lab in Long Island City.
Are you announcing nominees beforehand, or you're just announcing the winners at
I do want to announce all the nominees before the premiere on the 25th. I'm almost certain that I could get nominees announced like right after New Year's. I got a decent amount kind of like lined up where it's literally honestly just a matter of like taking into account all these later submissions, because right now we got 50. We got 50 movies.
Right.
So when I kind of just go through each and every one, I want to tell everybody, especially you guys, the filmmakers, to promote your movie better, because now if it gets nominated, there's also going to be a second screening in the second weekend at a bigger theater, because it'll just like on the back end, yes, you got the movie premiere, and then the following weekend, because if and so was actually nominated, just last look, everybody come check it out, because you don't know if it's going to be on a streaming service. That's a good opportunity if you really want to see it, yada yada. And that's where I'm at right now. It's just, it just brings up another problem that I have to solve. We have to get like the streaming services actually on the list, because I'm not building cul-de-sacs here. I'm not building dead ends.
Right. It's a good way of putting it.
But thank you for understanding the analogy, especially in real estate, you know?
Good deal, man.
Well, this has turned out to a really good conversation. We're about an hour in.
Okay. How long do you generally go?
About an hour and a half. It usually depends. Like, are you hard up for time?
I'm good.
All right. So, I guess for the audience, just to kind of start winding down a little bit, what were the name of the movies that you're involved in for the
So
film
Bound by
festival?
Bushwick is is my is my baby, for lack of a better term. I wrote it. I produced it on my own. I basically spearheaded everything. I had a lot of help along the way, especially by Dave Mozoff and Jack Foley, two accomplished filmmakers who I could not have made this film without. Uh, and Carissa Quinn, who was really did everything that we needed, and I had a lot of help, or I couldn't have made this film, and I certainly couldn't have made it at the level I made it. But I wrote it, I produced it, I directed it. I had a role in it as Father Brennan. So that was my film, and then The Rooftop, which is Dave Mozoff's film, I co-produced with him, and I have the lead in. So those are my two films. They're both in the B block on Saturday, the 25th.
Yeah, I think that's at one. I think that's at 1 o'clock.
That's 1 to 3 for sure. The B block. I wasn't remembering it. No, the 24th is the party the night before.
Yeah, we're doing a launch party at the restaurant down the street.
Yeah. So I'll definitely be there for that.
We had a big RSVP for that. And actually, when I look at it, there's like I think over 50 people that RSVP'd to come.
Yeah, I RSVP'd. So that's gonna be really exciting. I'm looking forward to the entire festival. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, and there's gonna be a lot of people there that I already know, and there's gonna be other people that I'm already meeting that I'm excited. I'm looking forward to meeting new people.
That's how it began. That's because that's what it is. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together.
Absolutely. Especially in this case, you cannot make a movie. Like I said, I could not have made this movie at all without help from a lot of people, not just Jack, Dave, Carissa, but family and friends. People like Frank Russo, who I reached out to and said, can I use a parking lot? And he said, I'll never forget it. And I said, Frank, just tell me what I owe you. And he said to me, just make a good movie. Those were his words to me. In other words, if you're going to use my property, don't embarrass me with a crappy movie. And so there were a lot of people along the way that offered me help out of the kindness of their heart. And that was it. My friend Joe Crafassi Real Estate, gave me the use of one of his apartments. And, and these were just people that were just offering me things, and saying, here, use it. I don't want anything other than I want to help you make a good movie. So I couldn't have done it with my brother Craig. He let me use his office as a holding area and let me use his building. So it goes on and on and on and on. I'm sure I'm forgetting.
That's awesome, man.
I'm forgetting a lot of people. But yes, it's you need the help of a lot of good people and a lot of very talented people and committed people. And my cast was amazing. I mean, these young people, many of them, this was their first featured role. And I just thought that they were phenomenal, and they were committed, and they were talented, and they were easy to work with, all of those things.
Were they going to come to the festival?
Some of them will. I'm trying. I offer them, they're all so busy with regular jobs and with, other gigs, but every single festival, I reach out to them and I offer to buy them tickets for them and friends and family.
They know that this is the tri-borough battle of the boroughs, right?
Yes. What I do is I don't tell them too far in advance, because then I don't hear back from them. So, it's funny, we're in a film festival in Teaneck next week. So I emailed a few of them and I said, let me know about next week. And a couple of them are like, I'll get back to you. Because what happens is if I email them too far in advance and then I buy the tickets for them, and then they get a gig or something, I'll start buying the tickets and they're not coming. So I wait till
Now you're scalping tickets at the front of the gate saying,
I hope I can scalp them and make them do buy. For our sake, I hope I can do that. That means that it's sold out. But our block of films, what do you have, 75 tickets per block?
Technically 70 are for sale, but the other 5 are reserved for the filmmakers because I'm spotting them. But the others I just try to put. But at the second theater, there's 170 seats available at the other theater. So yeah, it all depends. And of course, I'll like if there's ever like any discrepancies about like the money or something like that, I could either find a way to reimburse you, or if I could kick back like some swag or like a gift from the gift shop or something like that.
I'm joking about the tickets, but I don't even mind donating the extra seats back to the festival. I just find that if I tell them too far in advance, it becomes too much for them to think about at that point. So I don't get an answer, or I get a yes, and then So I let them know. Well, we're down to 31 tickets for the B block.
I know, like it's more than halfway sold out. Like it's
and I keep telling everybody, get your tickets while they're still available because it's the fastest selling block by far. But I think what you're going to see is with all the blocks, as we get closer, as we get through the holidays,
we're really going to fill in.
You're going to fill in. There's no question about it.
Well, I got Christmas discounts coming up because I know this is like a money spending time where it's more about family, but I'm gonna send out some codes for discounts for the holidays just to kind of like let them at least reserve something in advance,
Okay, good. I mean, and thank you you sent me a code too, and I bought a block of film, so thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure, man. No, I want people to succeed doing this. I really do. Honestly, I'm building this because this is something I needed the day before I started acting school,
Welcome to Happy Corner. This project strives to make safe housing areas for stray cats at an affordable price. It's so easy to put together that even your children could have fun making one. Help keep cats and other animals safe with their own little Happy Corner homes. You can help this project become a reality by donating to the GoFundMe page. Happy Corner homes are a great way to show those animals in need it's okay to be happy.
Where'd you go to acting school?
It started at Orange County Community College. I got bit by the bug. And after I did my first student film, I got into a festival called the Black Bear Film Festival, and the director of that film festival, he approached me and he said, go study in New York. And that was a guy by the name of Bill Schill. And he used to call me Tiger. That was just weird, but it was kind of cool. Nice to see you, Bill. But he recommended one school in particular, and that's the New York Conservatory of the Dramatic Arts. So I auditioned in 2000. I auditioned in 2009 and I got in 2010.
Okay.
And then from 2010 to 11, I studied there. And one of my classmates or just felt like I'm just going with the flow. I don't know what I'm doing in my life. I'm just like I'm doing my thing, and I don't know where to study and things like that. I don't know this world or this universe. I just got sucked in. And I'm talking one day to Andy Perez. We're still in touch to this day. He's going to be at the launch party, so he tells me. How the hell did he get 50,000 followers on Instagram? I'll never know. I'm like, bro, all right. But he says, dude, I want to go take a look at this other school. Come with me. So we walked across town, literally across all of fucking Manhattan, and we went to the neighborhood playhouse, and I signed up there for 2011 and 12. And that's where I studied. And that's where it all kind of like tied in together. And then
Dad studied at the neighborhood playhouse in the late 1940s.
Who did? Your father?
My dad.
Your dad? No shit.
The neighborhood playhouse. After he got out of the Marines, he studied at the neighborhood. Well, I got to get my dates right, because when he got out of the Marines, he left high school. He went into the Marines. When he got out of the Marines, he came back here, and he went to Hollywood to try to be an actor, because he had some friends from Brooklyn that went out there. So I have some tremendous photos, black and white photos of him doing stage work in California with guys like Russ Johnson, who was the professor on Gilligan's Island, all these like.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it's very cool. But he studied at the Neighborhood Playhouse either before or after he went to Hollywood. So that the Neighborhood Playhouse is, and I know where it is. I mean, I lived on East 49th Street, then I lived on East 76th Street. The Neighborhood Playhouse was right there. It's 54th Street between First and Second.
That's exactly where it is. Yeah.
Well, between First and Second. Yeah,
It changed my life going to that school.
really.
It's a story in itself, and I talk about the Playhouse and my experience there on other podcasts, but it's all tied together because I had a background in construction. I was an iron worker before I even went to college, and I only went to college for healthcare. And I got injured on the job, but I kept working, but it got worse and worse. I needed surgery. I got the surgery, but I had to go to college for healthcare. And that was back in 2000, I think it was 2008. January 2008 was day one for me going to school because I got surgery on my shoulder in December of '07. Man, time flies. And that's where it all began. Didn't go back into ironworking after that. I kind of got stuck here doing this, but I learned so much about myself through theater and film and acting and just getting this whole different side of my brain activated where it's really clicking for me and I understand it and I get it. I'm asking questions and I'm getting better and I'm learning, I'm developing. And then I kind of discovered that, yeah, through acting, I also was able to learn how to write. And I grew up with the worst reading disability, and I still have it since I was a kid. I just couldn't read very well, or just wouldn't. Something about me reading just wasn't absorbing right visually. But for example, like learning the piano, like I could play the piano blindfolded once I understand the notes and where they are. But if I look at the paper, then it literally becomes about me reading the paper, and it's not about the music because I can't just connect that. And that's how I'm able to learn my lines. It's through movement. And after that, because of the movement, I can think of something. I just can't visually see it, like with my eyes, but in my imagination, I can. And that's how I developed skills about being a writer.
That's very cool, man.
Yeah, it's the same thing with jujitsu. I actually started practicing jujitsu with my eyes shut, and I'm actually doing better.
Really?
I'm not even kidding, but my eyes get in the way.
Wow. So you have a desire to go to FDNY?
There are so many podcasts where I talk about this. I'm bitter because back in 2005, when I graduated high school, then became an iron worker and I'm working. I get hurt. But in 2007, the FDNY list shuts down in the city. They're not accepting anybody. So it was during that time where I couldn't work. So I had to go to school and I could not sign up to be a firefighter. And that didn't actually happen until 2012. And while I was studying at the neighborhood playhouse, the list was coming back and I was getting interested in that. But it just didn't it didn't work out. Because even with it was March of 2012 when I was supposed to take the test. And I think it was the first or second week of March. And I got sick with mono, I think right around that time. And so I took the prep test in Long Island City before, like the month before, but then a month later, I couldn't take that test because I was sick. I talked to the FDNY saying, well, no, you missed the test. That's it. And then that literally became, that was it.
Wow.
And then had I gotten on that list in 2016, I would have been asked to come on the job because that first list where they went through everybody from 2012, I met some people who actually did get on the job in 2017, and that they were from that previous list, and it opened back up for the academy around that time.
Okay.
But yeah.
Any regrets?
Every day.
Really?
Every fucking day, because what I did do, you're not familiar. I wrote a story called Fireland, and that's a story about the FDNY during the 1990s, based on a book written by Chris Edwards. And these are like every single thing is on all the podcasts. You're not going to miss a single detail. But I got Fireland behind me, and I'm actually working on the sizzle reel right now to premiere at the Triborough. And right now it's a podcast play. I've met John Field. He offered to get us in touch with John Stewart, and I was just putting together the reel to actually say like, okay, check this out, because I got a full season of Fireland ready. And it's bittersweet for me because I thought my life would be a lot easier as a firefighter, where it's like, go do your job, and, you could definitely do it, but you wouldn't worry about anything. Meanwhile, God's plan bringing me down this road where I'm actually helping people all around New York City in a different way.
Yeah. So what's your regular job?
Uh, Honestly, I deliver pizza, I act, and it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have a regular job. I just do.
Okay.
I don't. I just
That's
do.
cool.
I do whatever. I do whatever it takes.
That's great. That's awesome.
I think it's exciting, like I don't do just one thing.
Mhm. You're single.
I am.
Okay. No, now's the time to do it. To figure it all out, right?
Yeah. It's like it's hard because, I thought, I was hoping I was hoping for, life to just be a little bit different. I wouldn't change a thing. Of course, I regret not being a firefighter because like I felt like that was a real critical calling because my dad was a firefighter and that was something I know I could have done
Yeah.
and probably absolutely crushed. And it's like you don't want to let him down, right? And
Yeah.
what do you do? What are you doing with your life? Because he worries, and I've learned not to worry anymore because things always seem to work out. And the last thing I would want to do is ever fail him.
Yeah. As a parent, we never stop worrying.
All right.
No matter what, no matter how set my kids are, and I have one that is more than the other, I still worry about them both. I think that's parental nature. Your dad's retired?
Yeah, he retired actually at right in my last year of acting school. And not to get into it, but I wrote a book in 2013 based on the last 4 years of my life that was such a what the fuck is going on with my life, but I just had to get it out of my system. And I had no experience really writing before, but I completed my first novel when I was 25, 26 years old.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's ambitious,
it was.
especially someone who's not a writer, because I can tell you, it
No.
took me years to get this script finished. Years.
Oh, I understand. It took me 7 years just to get Fireland to where it is today,
Right.
but you don't want to do, you don't, for a story, for any story, once you write it down, it is written. That's it. You got to think of it as it's being written. And once it's written, that's what it is. So
That's right.
you got to just think of it as a timeless thing. So however long it may take you, I mean, you'll never be done with it, almost anything really. So time is on your side. Time is your ally because you you want to do I think you want to do it right and you want to do it justice and you want to tell the story in absolute. Sometimes it just takes time.
Yeah, I think for me, because it's my first writing project, I mean, I've dabbled, I have some other scripts that I worked on, but I never finished them. I didn't, everyone said, you'll know when it's finished. You'll know when it's finished. You'll know when you've done about as much as you can do. You can always do something a little differently, a little bit better. But I needed other people who were helping me with the script, friends who were looking over it, to say to me, I think you're done with it. Because I don't know whether it was something that I didn't have enough experience to determine, or whether it was something that even if I had experience, my nature is that it can always be better, you know? But I had other
Of
people
course.
say to me, I actually brought on someone to help me try to finalize the script. He was recommended to me, and he was young, and he was very talented, and he helped me with a lot of technical aspects of the script. But I said to him going into this together, I said, look, if it's not my story, and or if I don't like it, I'm not going to make it into a movie. It's got to be my story, and I have to like it at the end.
Of course.
And this young man kept trying to take it in his own direction. And I finally had to cut ties with him. And I almost gave up. We filmed this last summer and last fall. So end of the summer of 23 and a fall of 23. And I almost gave up. And I was with Jack and Dave Foley at a film festival in New Jersey. And they said, what's going on with the movie? This was right before July 4th weekend. And he said, what's going on with the movie? And I said, I'm not getting it done this summer. And they said, yes, you are. We're going to help you. Go home this weekend, finish up the script, send it to us. We'll tell you what we think. And I went home that 4th of July weekend. I spent the entire weekend coming up with 2 versions of the script, similar but different. And I knew which one I preferred. And it's the one, obviously, that is the script that we used for the movie. And I sent it to them. So right after 4th of July weekend, 2023, they looked at it. All 3 of us agreed the better script was the one that we used. And then from there, we went to holding auditions, casting, locations. So literally, it was like the middle of July when I decided to move forward with it. And we were filming before the end of August, and we wrapped before the end of November. It was like the most intense 4 or 5 months of my life. The editing process, which I have a phenomenal editor, Darren Davison. She teaches at the New Jersey Film School. And she was recommended to me by Jack and Dave. And she started editing in January, finished editing at the end of February. I found the editing process to be I don't know how you feel about editing, but I found the editing process to be the most enjoyable part of the entire thing. Because it was just putting all the final pieces of the puzzle together without the stress of having to worry about. And think about it, filming a period piece on the streets of New York City. Okay, let's put aside weather conditions, the noise, outside noise, making sure you don't show signage. I mean, we went to such great lengths to not let anyone know that we were filming in 2023 when it was supposed to be 1979. And I think actually, there's one little thing that it was such a stickler for me. During the decade of the 70s, the L train was the LL train.
Oh.
It was called the LL train for pretty much the decade of the 70s. And I went out and I got a round magnet made, magnet back with LL on it. And you'll notice when the kid is coming up the train or when he's in the train station, I just took the magnet and stuck it over the L train side. So
no way, man.
When we were filming, it said LL. There's one when he's in the subway and it says to Brooklyn, and it says LL next to it because that's why I had it magnetized, because I knew I could just stick it over. I went to all the.
I did not even notice the detail, bro.
It was just a little detail, and there's a lot of little things like that you wouldn't notice it, and you wouldn't even know it. I mean, unless you grew up there at the time, who's gonna know it was the LL train?
No, but see, here's the thing. You knew that. I
knew that.
That's the point. That's the absolute point. You know, know that you know it.
I mean, I did. There's one shot of a sign that says Fifth Avenue when the movie opens. I researched all the colors of the signs in the 5 boroughs. I mean, this was my own, neurosis.
Sure.
It was like all these little things that I went, and there may have been a couple of things that were not practical. I mean, making the LL sign was easy. It was $25. I went to a printing place here. He goes, yeah, I'll make one up for you, $25. So that was easy. Some things are not so easy and you work around them. But the stoop scene, I stumbled upon that 1979 Cutlass Supreme that was all beat up. The night before, I was happy to walk out to dinner in Bushwick with my friend, and we saw the car. It looked abandoned. It looked totally abandoned. It had no license plates on it, and it was sitting on the street with no other cars by itself. I go, it'll be great for the movie tomorrow. So we went to dinner, we went home, and I'm at my brother's house. My brother lives in Bushwick. I go, you know what? I'm going to go back and put a note on the car. Put a note on the car. 11 o'clock that night, the guy calls me. He goes, yo, you put a note on my car. I go, yeah, I'm filming a movie right next to Gordo's in Bushwick. Yo, I know Gordo's. I go, listen, I'll give you $50 if you let me use the car. He goes, I'll let you use the car, but I'm going fishing at 3 a.m. So you got to meet me on the street at 3 a.m. to switch, because I had held a parking spot in front. So I'm outside at 3 a.m.
Oh my God, bro. This is
my car out. He pulls his car in, and I drive him back. He goes, I'll walk back. It's like 3 a.m. in Bushwick. I mean, I grew up in Bushwick, but still, it's a little shady. Okay?
Yeah, still. You never know.
I'll give you a ride back. And I gave him a ride back. That's how we got that car right in front of the stoop. So otherwise we would have just worked around. We wouldn't have shown a car. We can't show a modern car. So it was all these little things that were just so much. It was fun. It was challenging, but it was rewarding. But all these little things you got to work around, man. when you're doing
Yeah.
a period piece on the streets in New York City.
But now you got experience, bro.
I know. That doesn't mean it's going to, well, it theoretically should be easier the next time.
Yeah.
But if I make this into a feature-length film, I can't do it on the same kind of limited budget that I did this one on. I've got to try to get someone, a producer to, yes, Astoria Filmmakers Club. It's got to be a bigger production because this was challenging when you're, when you're doing any film on a limited budget, it makes it that much more challenging. But that's what you have to do when you're starting out. You gotta make your bones, as they say.
100%. Yeah, then it's very hard.
Yeah.
Like, don't let it fool you, guys, boys and girls listening out there. It is very hard, but you can do it because if somebody can do it, you definitely can. You might not know how to do it, but once you start doing it, you'll get it done.
Look at me as an example, and look at you. We started not knowing anything. Okay? I started 6 years ago with background after a career in construction and real estate, knowing nothing about filmmaking. I never took a filmmaking course. But I felt like I could do it, and I surrounded myself with people, as I've always done. And this is not just a lesson in film. This is a lesson in life. In my construction business, in my real estate business, surround yourself with people who know a lot more about things than you do. You be the point person, but always surround yourself with people. My DP was a great DP. Surround yourself with people who know more than you know about different aspects of filmmaking or any business that you're in, and listen to them. That's important. Listen to them.
Yeah, because believe me, you don't know until you know.
That's right. You don't know sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And they know what you don't know. And that's why I had Jack and Dave there, because both of them are experienced filmmakers. I've been in, Jack actually, the first time I got cast, I went in and auditioned for an Irish detective at a studio in the city. Jack auditioned me, and he liked me. I'm not very Irish, so he made him an Italian detective. One other quick story about Father Brennan. Jack Foley, who's Irish, said to me, Mark, you're not very, I hate to tell you this, but you're not very Irish. Maybe you want to change Father Brennan's name to like Father Russo or Marino. I said, yeah, I'll think about it, Jack. But then Father Keenan died. And I said, I can't do that. I can't change his name now. I'm honoring Father Keenan. So I didn't want to call the priest Father Keenan, but I called him Father Brennan.
I mean, like, not for nothing, as an Irish guy and an Italian guy and a Jewish guy by blood, you did a great job with the role. And like, I'm not finicky about, wait a minute, he's under 6'5". He can't be. Like, I'm not like that. We're not like, come on, no. I thought what you did with the role, and you're a towering figure to a bunch of high school kids. Like, regardless of what your heritage, like by your blood to his, it's irrelevant.
Well, look at Robert De Niro as Jimmy Conway, Jimmy the Jet Burke, or as the priest in I don't think the priest in Sleepers was Irish, wasn't he?
I mean, like, that's a detail that I forgot, but it's like, if you're born in New York, you're from New York. We can't even call ourselves Irish Italians anymore because they're over there.
That's right.
Right. So it's like, are we really? Yes and no. I don't like. There's parts of me that cares and doesn't care because you want to honor your roots and where you come from because we're all different, but we're all New York. We're all Americans here.
That's right. And when it comes to playing a character, I've played Jewish characters, I've played Italian characters, Irish characters.
Sure.
New York is a New Yorker. You've got to be able to do that.
Yeah.
If you want to get roles as a New Yorker, you've got to be able to. Obviously, I read Italian. You read Italian, but that doesn't mean that we can't play other parts.
For the record, I can't read Italian.
I can read Italian. I won't know what I'm reading.
Yeah, I know. Like, I could read the hand gestures pretty good. That's about it.
That's all you really need.
Yeah, if you got that, then all right. You got the basics. You're good. Be in best behavior. Mind your manners. Honor your mother and father. You'll be fine.
There you go.
Mark, I got to say, this was actually a really great conversation, brother.
A lot of fun, man. I love talking to you. I can't wait to meet you. I can't wait to be at the festival. It's going to be great.
Honestly, it's going to be a great. I think it's going to be a great uh, culture that we're implementing, and just reforming parts of the film industry, and putting our mark on history here. And there's a restoration element to this because a lot of Hollywood origin stories came out of Queens, came out of New York, where a lot of productions and filmmaking began in New York City. They just happened to go out there and develop Hollywood, and now Hollywood has evolved into something quite uh, itself, or whatever you want to call it. But that's definitely not me. Like, I'm New York. We could do the exact same thing here. There's more than enough money. There's more than enough talent. There's more than enough customer base. There's more than enough fans. Yeah, we got it. We got our own thing, and it's part of what AFC is for.
And now you got the studios here, right? You've got, you got
You got
Brooklyn
help.
Stages, you got Kaufman Astoria Studios, you got Silver Cup Studios, you got, what's the one in the Brooklyn Navy Yards,
Steiner.
Steiner Studios. I
Yeah.
mean, and you got Jersey's got a ton of studios. So
Bronx built more.
which one?
Bronx built some more. There's one in Yonkers, I think, that just went up. We got Orange County, just north of New York City, where you got Choice Films. And it's actually sprouted because I don't think that tax credit from the governor's office of 30% and is going anywhere, because like some people don't recognize this, but filmmaking is a manufacturing job. A lot of work and a lot of jobs is actually created from all these prototypes. And
Yep.
I think of it now that I learned a little bit more this year, how to like articulate what filmmaking actually is, but as a manufacturing job, because it is. The marketing element, which is your cast and crew, all of that stuff, what the point of an agency and a talent is, because you're dealing with intellectual property, you're going to need legal. There's a lot of layers to this cake. And it's not just you sitting down and watching a movie for an hour. Yes, it is, but the backstory behind all that, it's literally the tip of the iceberg that you see. Like everything else underneath, and per square inch of all that space in between, 360, all of that is filled in the film industry. It really is.
Since I started making films, I do not look at films or TV shows the same way anymore. I look at them with a completely different eye. I'm looking at what's going on behind the main characters, with the set, it's just completely different now.
Now that I understand manufacturing approach, I look at every single film as a prototype, and seeing where, like, I look at the inventor, I look at the creator, I understand his style and how he could articulate an up and coming prototype, and where you develop that just on that small macro scale, and then poof, you got yourself a feature film, things like that.
Right.
And that's what it is. It's part of the incubation process.
Yep.
Mark, this was awesome, dude. I'm so glad we got a chance to talk.
Same here, Rob. Same here. And we'll definitely be talking some more. As I said, I'm really excited about the festival. Jack, Dave, my family, my friends, Zucca Theater. My sister-in-law was at Zucca Theater for some function. She said it's a really nice theater.
It is. We lucked out 2 years ago when we got in touch with them. Shout out to the Queens World Film Festival for putting us in touch with everybody over there. They're very welcoming, very easy to work with. And I'm really glad we got that space for the premiere, because you want to watch your movie in a nice movie theater, and it's very intimate. The Zucca Theater is a very intimate theater, and I know it's going to keep growing and getting better and better every year. I can't wait until we actually get a legitimate sponsor where we could absolutely crush this thing. But if we become self-sustainable, we'll keep it going.
Good, man. Good.
If anybody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do it?
My cell number, my email address. My email is bushwickfilmsllc@gmail. My cell is 917-416-6336.
Do you have any social media?
I do. I have Instagram. I have a Bushwick at Bushwick Films LLC. No, I'm sorry, at Bound by Bushwick Instagram, and I have Mark Montalbano 79 at Mark Montalbano 799. And then I have a Facebook page too with my name.
All right. I'll be sure to get all those details, and I'll make sure I tag you once we post this
Please tag
episode.
me. I'm following you on all social media that you're on.
You're going to get back around to this. I'm sure you're going to catch. You're going to see it either which way. And
All right.
we got a few extra podcasts to film this week from other members of the film festival coming in. If anybody's listening into this episode, if you're a part of the Triborough Film Festival and you'd like to have a chat with me before your movie premieres, please contact me again through Film Freeway, by email, on Instagram. I know your movie. Chances are I know exactly who you are. I'd love to talk to you, just like I spoke with Mark. And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, Triborough Film Festival. Be sure to follow and subscribe to be fully up to date with everything. Join our mailing list at astoriafilmmakers.org. And of course, we're on Instagram. Please give us a follow, share with your friends. We'd love to hear your story. Thank you so much for your support. And Mark, before you go, I always close every single episode with a segment called The Right Words at the Right Time. And I got this idea when I was reading a book called The Right Words at the Right Time. The author was just putting together just a giant collective of interviews from household names who you know today, whether it's like Shaquille O'Neal, Mel Brooks, whether they're a politician, a musician, an actor, but an influential person. But it was literally at the beginning of their career, and they were not those household names yet. So what I like to do is everybody on the podcast, I like to ask them those same questions because you don't know where your journey is going to end. And this is the time when I knew you when, and then it's just like, hey, remember that? So I got this. I'm going to wrap this up with the same question. So
Go ahead. Shoot.
All right, go ahead. So Mark, if ever in your life, has there anybody who has given you the right words at the right time that has always just stuck with you and got you through thick and thin, for better or worse, to make you the man that you are today? Or do you have words of your own that you would like to share for somebody listening?
It's very difficult to pinpoint one person from start to finish. There have been a number of people along the way. Of course, my parents, multiple teachers, but the one person who probably played the biggest role in believing in me was my first real boss when I got out of college in real estate. And I tell this to my children all the time. Sometimes there are people that see things and potential in you that you don't see in yourself. And when that happens, believe them. If they're telling you that you're capable of doing something, believe them and go with it, in spite of your potential self-doubts. And my first boss put me in the position to be, to be successful. When I started out as a real estate agent in Manhattan, and he saw something in me and quickly made me a manager and then made me the vice president of the company at 26 years old. It was the biggest brokerage company in Manhattan at the time. And I had some self-doubts because I thought I was maybe too young, but he did. And he proved to be right. So when people believe in you, believe them and believe in yourself.
You heard it here first, folks. Thank you so much, Mark. I'm so happy that you're going to be joining us for season 3. Bound by Bushwick is going to be playing at the Zucker Theater at 1 p.m. on Saturday, January 25th. All details are on our website, astoriafilmmakers.org. Click Triborough Film Festival, see tickets. There are trailers of all of these movies here on YouTube. Be sure to share them with your friends. If you like it, leave a comment. All the tickets and the links are right there in the description. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. You got any plans for later? You going to do anything else today?
I'm actually going to head out in a few minutes for a walk. It looks to be good. I live right by the boardwalk in Long Beach, so I'm going to head out for a walk while it's still sunshine, and then I'm going to be watching the SEC championship game and the Big Ten championship game. That's my exciting Saturday night, man.
I gotta go drop off a pizza starting at 4 o'clock and do that till 9 o'clock tonight. So that's my.
Oh man.
Yeah, and honestly, I enjoy it. Like Forrest Gump, like cutting grass. Honestly, I like dropping off food.
Oh man, well you're a people person, so you certainly probably get to meet a lot of people. And
dude, like that. I lost, like I can't even keep track. thousands and thousands of people know me.
Yeah, I'm sure, man. You got a personality that's larger than life. So that's great.
Thank you so much, Mark. This was a great conversation. Gonna let you go. Have a wonderful walk. Enjoy the basketball game. And I'll leave you with this. Wherever you go, in all that you do, always remember to never forget community, creativity, and joy.
You got it. Take care, everyone. Thanks again. Ciao.
Stopping in. See you next time. Ciao for now.
Bye.